Welcome to the Check Ball Show, sponsored by Prize Picks. I'm Austin Mills, Drew Hanlen, Frankie Delgado, and our guest for the day, Kevin Herter, the Red Mamba, Red Velvet. What else is there?
Hopefully that's it.
Okay. So Kev, we saw last season had a little shoulder injury, unfortunately, had surgery, missed playoffs. Just kind of want to check in with you, see how you're feeling, see how it's feeling, let fans know, what the timeline looks like.
Yeah, we were talking before this. It's I can start going live September 5th, so just kind of been a long summer. It's like anybody who's been through an injury or surgery, it's just tedious. It takes forever. Trying to be patient. They gave me like a 6-month recovery, and so trying to stay on track with that. But I feel good. Like I want to push more and get into it. October 1st, obviously training camp, what I'm looking forward to, but really kind of want to start doing more and start to get live and things of that nature.
So Check Ball headquarters, we're in LA. Actually, we shoot at Frankie's house. Thank you, Frank the Tank, for the spot.
Check Ball Studios.
So you're in LA, Kev, right now, but what has summer looked like for you? What I think is really interesting is what NBA players do in the off season, where they spend their time, what kind of stuff they do. How's the summer been for you?
A lot of travel. We travel a lot, obviously, during the season, but I feel like you don't get to enjoy the cities you're in as much as you would like to. And so I went home for a couple weeks, but spent some time in New York and Chicago, now in LA for a couple weeks. Just trying to get around, see different people, work out with different guys, see different gyms, enjoy different cities, not just kind of go back to where I'm comfortable and where I'm from. But for me, I like to just kind of get out and do different things.
All right, so I was doing some research. You talked about going back home, and I saved this one. I didn't put this in our show notes, but your high school changed their logo to a one-hand dunk of you.
They did the basketball.
Look at this. Do you see this? We're going to have to zoom in on this.
I
So,
didn't even know you could dunk.
so what is it like? You got Jerry West, who's, the logo for the NBA. You're the logo for the Shin basketball team. How cool is that, though, that like your logo is your high school team's mascot kind of thing?
It was cool. So I'll preface it, it's just the basketball team. So it made, for the whole school, it's a little bit cooler. I had a really good, high school coach, had a really good relationship with him. He retired from the team, and so kind of one of the last things he did is just kind of honoring me. He made that the logo for the basketball team, so they wear it on their jerseys and on their towels and on some of their warm-ups. So it's super cool. I don't exactly know when when the last time I dunked was in the NBA, so I still like to reminisce on some of the high school bounce.
That's so cool, man. No, not a lot of people can say that.
The logo. We're sitting next to the logo, another nickname of it.
Maybe I should put you on the logo right here.
What's crazy is that Kev is the logo, but he's the second best player in his family. You guys know this?
What?
Might be third, honestly.
Really?
Might be third.
No way.
Kev has a lot of basketball in the fam.
I've 2 younger sisters right now. They're playing in college, so they can shoot it. They gotta start to do a little bit of everything else, but if we get in the gym with them, they can definitely stick with me.
Dad was a hooper too.
Dad was a hooper.
Led the 14 seed to upset in the NCAA tournament.
Claim to fame, Stanford. Oh yeah.
As mid-major player, that's like all you want is you want a couple of games that like. It's funny because anytime I'm doing like a camp speech, and I start giving them like a motivational talk, then afterwards I'm like, any questions? And, the first thing they'll do is start asking about, do you know? And they name their favorite NBA players, and then after they get past that, they'll be like, what college did you go to? And I'm like, Belmont. And then I have to put a ... and I'm like, we only lost to Duke by 1 my senior year to open up the season. They're like, oh, so you played against Duke? I'm like, because they have no idea where Belmont is. But, for him to win as a 14 seed, that is really cool.
It was a lot of fun, honestly, growing up. Siena is similar level as Belmont. And it was like, the mid-major team that you always look forward to the NCAA tournament. And when I was growing up, Fran McCaffrey, who's now at Iowa, he had a run when I was coming up through high school with Siena. They made 3 straight NCAA tournaments. But I was around those teams so much. And so that was, I feel like, I attribute that. Like, when I fell in love with the game, wanted to play in college, I wanted to play at Siena. Like, the local arena they used to play in mid-major, go to the NCAA tournament. And so I used to be close with, or at the time thought I was close with all the players and just was around the game. So it was a fun environment to grow up around.
I thought the cool thing, too, in high school, just doing research, is cool because, like, obviously I've known you from dinners and known you from, like, watching you on the court and stuff like that. But, like, growing up, you obviously played with some MLB players. So you won baseball state championship, basketball, Mr. Basketball. So it's like when you think back about your experience of being a multiple sport athlete, do you think that helped you a ton? Because I know that so many people nowadays are like, should you prioritize, one sport? Should you completely eliminate the other ones? Like, We'll talk about your experience of playing baseball, winning, at baseball, winning in basketball, and then ultimately, choosing basketball as like something that you do full time.
Everything Austin wanted to be.
I would have loved to be a baseball player.
It was at the time it was easy because I love both. It was an easy decision. I played high school all the way through my senior year. Even after I committed to Maryland after my junior year in high school, and they let me play. There wasn't anything wrong with me going out and playing that spring, but I just loved the game, and I had a lot of friends with it. Growing up, all like my youth baseball teams were equally as good as my basketball teams, so I really did both 50-50. Once I got to high school, kind of started to play basketball a lot more, practiced it at a higher level, started traveling more for AU, but I still loved baseball, and we had a really good group. We had a big high school, and so that senior year we knew we had the guys to do it, and luckily for us, the pitching rules in New York for the high school tournaments, you play once a week. And so we had a pitcher that was dominant that pitched every game up until the state championship. And we rolled everybody and ended up winning the states. I think it was like 9-8 on a walk-off hit. And before that, we were beating everybody 3-1 and 5-0. And so we had a good group, but it was easy. I stayed with two just because I love the sport.
Did you have a chance?
Not nearly I probably could have played at some level in college and baseball. Obviously not at the level that Maryland was in basketball, but again, it was more I played it all growing up and just kind of want to see it through with that group.
Also, fun fact, Kev mentioned Maryland. When I transferred from Pepperdine, I was recruited to like 5 to 10 schools, but I narrowed it down to 3, and I went to take my visits. Baylor was my first visit, Oregon State was my second visit, and Maryland was supposed to be my third visit. I took my trip to Baylor first, loved it. Coach promised me a lot of things, so it was very
unrealized things.
Yeah, took my second visit to Oregon State. Coach's son was the point guard, so that wasn't as attractive. And then my third visit was supposed to be Maryland, and my dad was like, "It's too cold. You're not gonna like it. We're not gonna visit you." Like all this stuff. So I literally didn't visit Maryland.
We're not joining you out there.
Yeah. And Kevin and I would have been teammates, same time.
You didn't even take your visit?
I didn't even take the visit. My dad fully convinced me out of it. He was like, "It's freezing. You're gonna hate it. You're gonna walk to class in the snow. Like all this stuff."
That's crazy. I mean, there is like real winters there, but it is not at all like a cold climate. You
Did
should have taken the visit. Honestly.
Did you love it? We had Chandler on 2 episodes ago, and Chandler talked about, he basically skipped the NBA to go back to college. Did you have a similar experience?
Honestly, I'm jealous of Chandler because I wish at the time I had the balls to do that when I was leaving college, because I did. I loved it, and he talks about it that, right, he could have left after his junior year, and he loved college so much. He's like, I'm going back to play my 4th year. Like, I know I'm going to the NBA at some point. And I did. I loved it. We had a really good – if I had stayed, the team that was there after I left made the NCAA tournament, was a really good team. I think if I had stayed, we would have been even better. And still to this day, like, I don't regret the decision. I just wish it could have been different because I would have definitely liked to stay that junior year. Part
of the Maryland decision, and I don't know if you know this, but Kyle, who does our production, used to be on the team that shot I'm Schmacked in some of those videos. And I went and watched the I'm Schmacked video from Maryland, and I was like, oh, shit, did I make the biggest mistake of my life not going to Maryland?
I mean, it was a state school, so it was a pretty good party school. It was fun.
What time is it?
Oh, here he goes.
Prize Picks time.
Let's go.
I do love me some Prize Picks. If you play $5 on any selection, you just choose more or less on 3 people. You play $5, you get $50 automatically into your account.
Frank, would it be basically free money if he was playing against Caitlin Clark?
More points on Caitlin Clark.
And for him?
Less.
I'll tell you what, we've been having fun. We've been having barbecues, going more or less, watching games. It makes games that normally you don't want to watch a lot more interesting.
100% play your Prize Picks. Use code BallerMedia. Don't forget, back to Kevin Herter.
All right, so I want to shift gears a little bit. Obviously for me, I don't have a team that I cheer for. Growing up, I cheered for the Bulls because of Michael Jordan. Now I just cheer for my clients. And so I remember the first time really like studying your game was when you guys were getting ready to play against the Sixers. And, that series was obviously crazy. But I felt like that was really when most casual NBA fans really started to know who you were. Game 7, you blew up. You have 27 points in Game 7. But talk about that just because I feel like, everybody talks about, like, what was your NBA moment? And normally the NBA moment is, like, when you were welcomed, meaning, like, when you got dunked on, when you got crossed over, when you got cooked. But I think of the other thing. Like, there's always an NBA moment where, like, now you feel like you belong. And obviously, there's moments before that where you probably like, I belong. But that Game 7 still to this day is what most casual NBA fans know you for. But talk a little bit about how that felt going into a Game 7 and being, like, the guy that ended up winning the series for you guys.
Yeah, it's a great story, and definitely feels like at the time was my coming out party. And a lot of that is unsurprising. My first 2 years in Atlanta, we weren't very good. Even the start of that third year, we weren't very good. Fired Lloyd Pierce, now with the Pacers, and then we just got hot. And so it was almost the first time, like, if you win, you get put on TV, and people know you when you win. They don't know you when you're bad. And so we made this big run, beat the Knicks in the first round, obviously upset the Sixers, and so. Like, anybody who's been through the playoffs, like, we were so beat up at that point. Like, our whole team, everybody was playing through something. And so Bogdanovich, the Serbian guy, just went off in the Olympics.
For the casuals.
He's my guy, and he was like, he had this knee injury. And so going into that game, first, I think there was like 3 or 4 guys on the team that when that season ended had off-season surgeries. Like, we're fixing things. So, like any team, we're beat up. So we go into that Game 7, and Bogey shouldn't have played. Like, and if it was a regular season, he probably would have sat a couple weeks. And so he literally said in the locker room, he's like, I'm going to be a decoy. Like, I'm going to be on the court because I know how they're guarding me. They're going to give me a lot of attention, but I don't have a lot of minutes. It might be 12 minutes. And so I was in like a mini huddle with him and Danilo Gallinari, and Gallo just looked at me in the locker room after Bogey said that. He's like, you have to shoot. He's like, I don't care if you miss every shot, like, you have to shoot. You have to come out
That's
aggressive.
dope.
And so for those two are basically looking at me like, you need to do something in this game. And, like, the confidence, because Gallo also doesn't say a word. He didn't say a word all year, and all of a sudden we get to that game, and he's like, he was ready to go. And so I went to that game, like, just super aggressive. And I think I made my first 5 out of 6 shots, and there were pull-ups. They're all in rhythm. And so I just felt really good to start. And Bogey did. He started the game, played 6 minutes, didn't play the rest of the half, started the third quarter, played, I think, 6 minutes, didn't play the rest of the game. And I just kind of knew going into that, the ball was mine. I get to be aggressive. I get to probably take whatever shot I wanted. And at the time, they were doubling Trey off of every ball screen. And luckily that night, the shots were falling.
So last episode, we had Trey Murphy. And one of the things that I thought was pretty cool for, like, the basketball players and fans and coaches out there that we had talked about was he was talking about how to kind of go from a role player to a star, and kind of talking about the progression of, like, you have to master the role you're in while working towards the role you want. But another thing that I want to know, because, again, I think it can help the basketball players that watch this, for somebody that is capable of doing that, like, any given night, you could go drop, 30 points, 27 points, etc. But you are a lot of times confined to a smaller role and kind of forced to play within the system. How does that feel? How do you keep that confidence alive? How do you keep that, kind of still I don't know what it is, that fuel of, like, all right, I need to keep getting better, like we talked about in the offseason workouts, while still being like, but I know this is what I have to do to keep getting paid, keep getting played, and keep, my career alive.
What motivates you to while you're being a role player sometimes?
Yeah, at first, like, your trust from your coach, right? I think being the best player in your team and being the go-to 1 or 2 guys is really hard to do for 82 games. And so there's special players that get to that point that are trusted with that because they, for the most part, deserve it. And so first off, you have to prove it. But secondly, I think it's easier to do when you're winning. If you're on a team where you might be the 6th or 7th guy or the 5th guy, and you might be 4th or 5th in shots, as long as you're winning, that's kind of at the point that always matters. And I think it's tougher to do in a losing team. At this point in the NBA, most of the losing teams, they give the reins to the younger guys anyway. But at that time, I think it was, we were rolling. Like I said, we got hot with my time in Atlanta. And when it was my turn, I was ready for it. But I think it's similar, like, what we're going through right now in SAC is we have, especially, trading for DeMar, there's so many offensive weapons that if you want to be in a good team, you have to sacrifice. And anybody who wants to win at a high level knows that. And there's a lot of guys across the league, guys that you work with that know that too. But it's tough to do for sure. It's like the day in, day out grind of, I should be doing this, I should be wanting more. First off, you have to be patient. You have to wait your turn, but also, like, you have to prove it. You have to, get the trust from your coaches to be able to put in that situation to prove it and do that. And there's only 1 or 2 guys on most teams that actually have the reins to go out every night and do it.
I think that's one thing that a lot of casual fans don't realize is that like part of you going through the NBA lifestyle and process is managing the expectations around you, like the circle around you. Because I'm sure like you get in a car ride and the first thing that some of the people around you want to say is like, you should have got more shots. You should have got more minutes. You got to be more aggressive. You got, and again, you feel some of these things too. So then it just eggs you on. You're like, yeah. And like, you have to almost calm them down and be like, hey guys, listen, like I'm doing this because I'm being a professional. And part of being a pro is doing whatever the team and coach asked me to do to help impact our chances at winning basketball games. And I think that, I mean, it's hard. You know, it's one of those things where like everybody has that ego inside of them. That's part of the reason why you're able to make the NBA. But then you also have to control or tame that ego and use it in the right way so that ultimately you can, you know, be like him where you put yourself in a position where, you know, in game 7 you do shine, or, you know, there's going to be another moment here in the near future where he has a breakout game and he's like, I'm capable of this all the time, but I'm not needed to do this all the time.
Yeah, that's so that to me is like the coolest part about the NBA. To be able to be a role player and like know who you are on the team, but know that you could still go give you buckets, right? You can still go give anybody buckets.
Well, that's why they say always, you know, like a casual fan will be like, that guy sucks. But they will literally give anybody, you know, 30 with their eyes closed.
Didn't the real Red Mamba do that?
He's Scalabrini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't he go like somebody was talking shit to him and he goes, all right, I'll meet you in the gym. And he went and just annihilated him.
Everybody who's in the NBA was the best player ever from their high school, was the best player, was probably Mr. New York basketball, whatever state they're from. Like they are the cream of the crop, and then you're seeing that. Right. So yeah, the guys get hurt, and there could be 5 starters out, and all of a sudden the guy who doesn't play a lot goes off. It's like, yeah, he's in the NBA. Like he does this.
Yeah.
All right, here's a fun question for you, okay? If you got to go back right now, healthy you know, we're acting like, you know, you can't play for another 2 weeks, but healthy you gets to go back and play one more high school basketball game. What's your stat line? So you get to go play for your high school, right now.
From right now.
Right now you get to play against the current high school crop.
I mean, I hate to be this guy, but I feel like you look back at high school and you're like, it had to have been better when I was there, right? Like, you're looking back in these old leagues and you're like, it was definitely
How do
better
they
when
not
I was.
average 50? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I'd say we're around like the 40 or 50 mark, you know.
No, I think you would get like 70.
First off, if you knew you only had one high school game, you would go back and just
go
gun.
nuts.
That's true.
You'd
might
have
get a
to.
dunk.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, you take every shot.
Every ball.
Yeah.
Every ball. And then what about college? Because here's one interesting one, and I'm going to ask you. Actually, I'm going to follow up with this. First off, what would your stat line be if you went back and played one more game at Maryland?
One more game at Maryland right now. Let's say 36. Let's go with 8 and 8.
So
That's
solid.
fair. Yeah.
One of the questions we always wonder is if you took like your dad's team, you know, they upset, you know, and won a game in the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. If you took a 16 seed and you added one NBA player, you picked the NBA player.
Let's say yourself.
So it could be
Let's
him,
say
but I'm
Kev.
saying also if you put you on a 16 seed, do you think you guys could beat a one seed?
Yeah.
Now, do you think if you put on a 16 seed, if you put one player, so it can be Joel Embiid, it can be Jokic, it can be KD, it can be LeBron, do they win the NCAA tournament?
I'd say yeah. Because also these 16 the 16 seeds, most of them are these seniors anyway. Like they're the best team from their conference. They just don't have the size.
But they do upset the team sometimes.
They
know?
do.
Once. 16, I think, has only won one game ever. And we're talking about winning the whole tournament and a team that can play zone. And a lot of times 16 teams are the scrappy athletic teams that don't have shooters. So it's not like you're surrounding LeBron with a bunch of shooters. You're surrounding LeBron with a bunch of athletes. I don't know.
Here's what screws me up about the rules, though, is that in college it's easier, 1, to zone, and then 2, like the box and ones and all that come into play more in college because of the spacing.
Yeah, because you have like a
It's
college
a very
kid
interesting thing.
Right.
college kid that's like nervous, can't shoot, wide open. You know,
Right.
they just keep feeding him, but he's missing.
Games are slower. Like look at the Olympic games. Like all those were lower scoring than a regular NBA game. The stat lines are way different. That'd probably be more like what the game would actually be than an NBA game.
It would be crazy to see. So when I was in high school, my freshman year, we lost to Tyler Hansborough and Ben Hansborough, their team. And so Tyler, we had an NFL player that played 10 years in the NFL, D-end, Adrian Claiborne. We put him behind, you know, Tyler. And then in front of him, we had Eric Jones, who was a 6'6" Division I basketball player in front of him. So we basically sandwiched two. And we left one kid completely open.
Yes.
Like we played man-to-man, but we took his man and put him in front and back. And Tyler still had 25 and 20.
Wow.
But it was funny seeing that kid. He would like drive in the paint and then back it up.
Yeah.
And then drive in the paint. We're like, we are not going to guard you. Like we're not going to guard
Just
you.
also
But
makes you so self-conscious, just being wide
it would be
open.
very interesting to see if you put like one of those stars. Like if you put Kevin Durant on a 16 seed, how that there would be somebody disrespect on the court because you'd have to put at least 2 guys on KD.
100%. And I believe in that so much. Leave one guy wide open and make him beat you.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot let the best player beat you in any game you're going into. Make, like, the 5th guy in the court beat you.
Can you imagine that? You're in like a triangle and 2 guys on that guy, and you're just yelling, shoot him, shoot him.
Hey, man,
There's
they've done it to me a lot, and I made them pay, though. And Austin, you were my witness on that one. Shake and bake, baby.
Kev, we got a nasty duo in our adult league, me and Frank. Kev, you there's nights where you shot 36% from 3 last year, and there's nights where you have incredible nights. There's nights where you're off, and you hear fans all the time like, why can't he do that every night? This guy stinks, whatever. What is the difference between a 1 for 8 night and a 8 for 12? Is it all mental or
Is it defense?
Definitely. I mean, for me, it's not defense. I'll start by that. What do you mean by defense?
I think you meant how they guard you.
Is somebody
Oh.
guarding you better on those nights?
No, there's definitely certain nights you can't make a thing. But I mean, I'd say rhythm. Like if you're in one of those moods where you're 8 for 10 or 8 for 12 in a game, it feels like anything you throw up is hitting rim or close to the rim. Like you get in one of those modes, and then 1 for 8, it feels like you're trying to do everything perfect. You're going through all your checks as a shooter, and for some reason it just won't drop. So I mean, a lot of that I feel like is rhythm, like how you start games and like how you feel going into it. But I think the biggest difference with like 1 for 8, 8 for 12, I love the saying, like you can't go 2 for 9 unless you take the next one. Like, so you got to continuously shoot to bring your percentage back.
All right, as a shooter, is there one thing that you think – so you are – let's say you're 1 for 4, 1 for 5. What's the one thing that you first try to snap you back? So, like, for me, it was always, like, put more arc on my shot. Like, I was like, if I've missed a couple, I'm going to try to get more arc. And then I also make sure, like, my balance was good. If those 2 things were in check, I felt like I was going to have, a lot of confidence that the next one was going in. Is there something that you go to when you're missing?
I feel like definitely my legs. I go to my legs. Like your next shot, when you try to make it an easier shot, you're not making anything if you're still taking tough shots. You're shooting yourself in the foot. But yeah, like your balance, making sure my legs are in my shot. Sometimes when I get tired or like anybody, you start shooting a lot of upper body. And I think for the types of shots I'm taking and flying off screens and shooting tougher threes, everything on the move, it's easy to just kind of focus on how your upper body feels. And for me, the check is, okay, get my lower half, re-engage, find your legs, and try to make it.
For young players, can you talk about your workouts? Because I think that, like, it's even funny to me because we post, periodically we'll post like videos from our workouts, and obviously we post like the sizzle reels, you know what I mean? And so they don't see the just like guys just sprinting up and shooting, and they'll be like, oh, do you ever work on spot up shooting? I'm like, of course. if we posted that, everyone would be like, duh. Like, you know what I mean? So can you talk about like what your workouts look like as a guy that's primarily off the ball and a guy that does have to cut and use handoffs and, be like versatile in a team setting, not as much as an individual setting?
Yeah, it's actually funny. I think in general I try to think the game, really think through everything I'm doing. And sometimes I get in trouble because I overthink. And a lot of that goes into like overthinking my shot. And so I think I made a mistake, and this goes back to at least me overthinking last season. I think I made a mistake going into last year that my first 5 years in the NBA, my off-season workouts, I was trying to become a better basketball player. I did ball handling, finishing, spot ups, on the move. Like you kind of worked on a little bit of everything while focusing on things I needed to. And so I went into last offseason, and all I really right now, my role in the Kings is our movement shooter and spacing, and I need to be in great shape, and I'm running corners. And so I really focused heavy last offseason. Like my workouts, if they're an hour or 40 minutes of me flying around and shooting threes. And the rest of my game, I feel like took a back seat. And I could feel it during the year. Like I didn't, went back and I dive in after the end of every year, look at my stats and, percentages more so of what I shoot from each area. What were my twos? How were my pull-up, my floaters? What did my pull-up left look like? What did my pull-up right? And most of the stuff that I had been really good at for the most of my career that was kind of, unsung, people didn't take note to, had all dropped. Like pulling up left that I've been great at was, dropped last season. And so a lot of that is I think I focused too much on one thing. And so went back to this year, and like the emphasis right away was like, let's get back to being a basketball player. Like we know the Kings right now are using you in this specific role, but you need to just be able to do everything. And so I think every day, my first 25 minutes of my workouts always look the same. I have a shooting routine that I start with. I get through the same level of shots. A lot of that is, reps really close, move out to 3. Your stationary shots, you just make 5 from a corner just to feel good, and moving into finishing and light things, again, just working on your touch around the rim. And then you could start to kind of change workouts based on the day and how much you want to do.
It's weird because that's how he became so versatile. In a weird way, when we started working out, a lot of people forget he averaged 11 points a game at Kansas. He made 1 3-pointer. He was 1 for 5 in his season at Kansas, and he shot 66% or 67% from the free throw line. And when we started, he was like, I want to be a point center. Like, he wanted to be a point guard. And so my thing was more so like, I don't even care if I waste 15 minutes a day. I'm just going to let him do it because it makes him feel better. It makes him feel like he gets more engaged. And then I was like, wait, he can actually do some of this stuff. And then it was like, okay, now we'll just add like a hezzy pull-up. And, okay, now we'll add, instead of him doing something from triple threat from the three-point line, let's just move him into the mid-post and get like now all the Kobe jabs and stuff like that. And then we realized like, wow, like he's really versatile because he can do it. But to your point, I think that too many times coaches and teams give you players a leash, and you end up shrinking the leash because you think like they only want me to do this. We talk about it all the time, like expanding your role. And like I had a player today in the gym, and I had just met him for the first time, an NBA player. I'm not going to say their name, but I was helping another trainer with them, and they thought I was going to come in there and like show them some magic drills. And I went right to the mentality stuff. And I was like, what are you going to do next year? And how many points per game? And how many shots per game? And what's your role going to be? And they started naming all these questions, and they were like, oh my God, I didn't realize like I literally shrunk the box that I'm in. Like my team wants me to do more, but I think that they don't want me to do more. And it's like when you're out there on the court, you have to just be a player. You know what I mean? So I think that's so important for young players, that they're watching, is like sometimes you got to get back out there and just use your imagination and get back to having fun, because when you picked up a basketball for the first time, that's what got you to love the game,
Exactly.
So what do you think you're going to average next year?
We're doing all this, Frankie. What do you average in men's league? I just want your stats for men's league.
Probably like 6 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists.
You giving him
Frank
6?
is the only person in the history of men's league games that after a game, if I say like, Frank, how'd you do? You should have seen the screens I set. You should have seen this backdoor bounce pass I threw to so-and-so.
Because I know my role.
He knows his role. That's
But
why
on
he's the
Thursday
highest.
nights, I dominate.
That's why he's the highest paid player in the league right now.
I am the highest paid player in the league.
You guys on the same team?
Yeah.
So you set screens for him?
A little shake and bake action.
Shake and
yeah,
bake.
a little shake and bake.
Sometimes you never know if the ball's gonna come or if it's not gonna come.
The little fake
the
handoff.
fake handoff.
You get him like in the Jackie Moon.
Here's the thing: I get him open,
throwing it back and forth.
pretty much. You know what? Yes.
That's it.
In other words, that's me.
Okay.
Kev, I want to know what this season looks like, because you mentioned DeMar earlier. Obviously, no Harrison Barnes, no Davion. Davion, was a defensive stopper. Harrison was kind of like a glue guy for you guys, and also a bucket. And now DeMar DeRozan comes, big name, big contract. What does the season look for you guys? Are you guys automatically better? Does the offense change? What does DeMar look like for you?
Yeah, I think first off, you add someone like DeMar and his skill set, like automatically I think you're better. You add a player of his caliber, you're a better team. I will say like there's a lot of confidence in our building. There has been since I've gotten there. And the West is really tough league. And so, we even felt like last year we dropped a couple easy ones at home or things we could have won, and you're still just right in the mix. Every year there's 2 or 3 at the top, and then everybody seems to be right in the middle. And so we've sat there kind of the past 2 years, and I think we have a lot of confidence. I think it can go any way. I think we'll be able to score and play with anybody. Defensively, I think we continue to show we're getting better. Even the second half of last season showed in the playoffs of the Warriors. Like I think there's another level defensively that we can get to. But it's hard to make predictions just because it also feels like the talent across the NBA is at, for me, I think like an all-time high. It feels like every team, there's very few that aren't trying to win anymore. And there's a lot of teams that you could easily put in, say, I could see them as a 7-8. They could be in the play-in. And, I think we're going to be right there in the mix with anybody. I think we can beat anybody in any given night. It's just 82 games. Let's see if we can stay healthy.
Talking about 82 games, and I think this is always crazy, but I always say that like most of the time 82 games means you're really playing 72. You might miss 10 for injuries, load management, etc. And out of those, you might have 10 really good games, 10 really bad games, and then 52 games that are just that nobody talks about. Can you talk to players about that? Because I think high school and college kids, like if you have one bad game, it's like that whole week sucks. You remember when you were in high school, you had a bad game, the whole week sucks. Whereas in the NBA, fans will be like, players don't care as much. It's like you have 82 nights. And the reality of it is most of the nights are going to be average. It's just like an average person going to work. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're a salesperson, you go to work, most of the days you're going to just meet your quota. And then there might be a few days of the year where you have a great sales day, and there's going to be some days where you don't sell anything. But it's not like every day is going to be the best day of your life, the best sales day of your life. Yeah. Can you talk about the grind of 82 games and how you kind of stay level-headed, whether you do have, those 27-point breakout games, or you have a night where you just can't make a shot?
Right. There's so many highs and lows in the NBA. And you can go through a million highs and lows within 1 week. And it is. I think fans, they sometimes look at the NBA, like you said, and they don't think guys care. But you have to, any healthy mindset, you lose a game, you have 1 and 2 nights, like you flip the page and you got to start focusing on the next one. And I think most guys that get to the NBA, nobody grew up knowing how to lose. Like you didn't make it here because you're on bad AAU teams and bad high school teams and bad college. Like everybody gets to this level and they've only known winning their whole life. And so guys definitely don't take it well. Like everybody cares. Everybody wants to go in every night and win. It's just obviously it's not possible, but it is. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs. I think a lot of people, you try to break off games, and us with the Kings, we look at everything in 5-game series. How did we do in the past 5 games? We're 3-2, 4-1, 2-3, and you try to make changes in small increments. But the season's a grind. Like it really is, and it starts early. It feels like it goes forever. Once you get past Christmas, you look forward to All-Star break, and then after All-Star break, the playoffs are upon you. And so it's a mental grind as much as anything, as much as a physical. You get to November and your body feels great, and you just kind of stay here for most of the year if you can stay healthy. It's the mental, every single night, traveling, going to new cities, mixing in family life and all that. It's just it gets you.
Okay. All right. Kev, I have a game that I want to play with you. I want to know how well you know three-point shooters in NBA history.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So these are the top NBA three-point shooters of all time by career percentage with at least 1,000 attempts.
Percentage.
Career percentage.
Percentage.
Both retired players and current players.
Retired and current. There's 10. You don't have to do the order. I just want to know if you can get at least a handful of the 10.
Career.
Joe
Harris, is he one? He just retired.
Joe Harris
There's
won.
my boy Joe.
That's a good one.
Joe comes in at number 4 on the list.
Joe's 4.
Number 4, 43.6%.
Steph is on there.
Steph is on there. That's 2.
Clay's on there.
No Clay.
No Clay.
You have to factor in attempts. This is over 1,000 attempts. Clay's got a lot more attempts than some of these guys.
Reggie Miller.
Nope.
No on there. Ray Allen. Let's go with Korver.
Yep, Korver's on there. Korver is 42.9%, 5,700 attempts. So that's really impressive.
So I got 3 so far?
You have 3.
Wally Zerbiak.
No Wally.
Peja?
No Peja.
Larry?
No Larry.
Jesus.
It's tough. This is a tough list.
A lot of the good shooters from back in the day, people don't realize they didn't even shoot 40%. Like, you know what I mean? When you go back and you look at numbers and guys that, like, we remember growing up, like Larry didn't shoot 40% for his career. Ray Allen, I think he made his last shot and finished exactly at 40.0% for his career.
Oh, shit, I did not
like
know
a lot of guys, when you go back, like Michael Redd, under 40% for a career. So it's weird to think about some of those great shooters that we grew up idolizing. But
Makes
it was
you feel
also
better, Kev?
it was also a different it was also a different game back then. You know, guys didn't shoot as many threes.
Let's.
You got 3.
Mike Miller.
Nope. I can help you too if you want help.
Yeah, give me some.
One of the guys that you listed, his brother is also on the list. And actually,
Seth Curry.
Yeah. Seth Curry is ahead of Steph. Seth Curry is at 43%.
This is for the percentage. Percentage is tough.
It's tough.
The number 1, you don't have the number 1 overall, and he didn't play on Team USA, but he was a part of Team USA.
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr, number 1 on the list.
45.4% in his career, 1,600 attempts.
Wow. What about
I'll give you number 2 because you'll never guess that. Hubert Davis. Number 2 at 44%. Luke Kennard. Number 3.
How many shots?
Yeah, Luke's like 43 every year.
Huh?
1,800 attempts.
That's
40,
great.
40
Wow.
almost 44% ahead of Joe Harris. Number 5, Jason Capono.
Okay.
Bruin legend, 1,000 attempts, low attempts. Number 7, Steve Novak, 43%. And then the only other one we missed was Steve Nash, 42.8%, 4,000 attempts, which, by the way,
That's
I
big.
think Nash and Steph are the most impressive on the list because they're not just spotting up and shooting. They're running the offense, shooting off of screens.
Shot profile definitely matters.
100%.
Shot profile definitely matters. Like there's a lot of times where like when NBA players are arguing who's a better shooter, that's like the first thing that comes up is, you look at how many attempts, also the shot profile, also what option you are, because if you're number one, you're getting guarded different than if you're number 3 or 4.
For sure.
And so sometimes fans won't realize that like the shot, as a shot difficulty changes, also the percentage will change.
Yeah.
And Steph has 8,800 attempts and he's not even done yet.
Steph's different.
Most on that list by far.
Where'd you counter? How far is like James Harden? Like when James Harden's remembered, because he's creeping up the all-time makes, isn't he?
This was like 20. I think it was top 25, but I just did the top 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
James Harden, I mean, he'll be remembered as a scorer, but he's like when Steph beat it, who did he beat? Reggie in the Garden when he did it. Like you crept up and they showed the list, and James was already like 7, which is
He's a bucket.
You don't think of James like a 3-point shooter, but he's up there.
It's funny because even when I looked at your number and you think of like NBA 3-point shooters, people expect you guys to be at like 50%. You shoot 38% for your career, and you're like, oh, that's solid. And then you look at this list, and Steph shoots 42% from his career. You're not far off. It's not like
it's a little different.
You're almost Steph.
For sure. No, for sure. But it's still 38%. Very impressive for career shooting.
I'll take it. The goal is still 40.
All right, last question. We ask everybody this. Dream king of the court. So it's you and 3 people, dead or alive. It doesn't have to be basketball players. It can be anybody. But, like, if you got to check ball against 3 people, it can be celebrities. It can be
For fun. Doesn't
for
have to
fun.
be
It's
competitive.
just, anything you want.
Random, I'll go Adam Sandler.
Oh, I like
That's
that one.
amazing.
I've
That's a
never
good
seen
one.
That's a good one. He hoops too.
Never seen him hoop, but I heard he does hoop.
He does hoop.
He used to hoop in our little game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go Jordan because of the obvious.
Okay.
The GOAT.
But you just know you're going to lose. But
Jeez.
okay.
Yeah, I
Don't
mean,
let
you
him
get
talk
the
to you
GOAT,
like
you get a non-basketball player.
He's so disrespectful.
Like a
I mean,
Manute
it's
Bowl
true.
would not be fun, even though that would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Wow. From left field.
That would be an
Manute
interesting
Bowl.
one. Manute Bowl.
I can't believe that popped in your head. You know what I mean?
Oh, like who would be like an interesting person to play 1-on-1?
We all put Obama.
Obama would be the
Obama's like a
last one.
hooper,
He had Tom
president.
Brady on his list.
Tiger
I
Woods.
had Tiger Woods on my list.
That's a good one. I go Jeter then. Derek
Jeter?
Derek
New York
Jeter.
guy.
New York baseball guy.
Yeah.
Everyone's
can
had
do on
Michael
court.
Jordan on it though.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta see what he's.
No,
doing.
I didn't have Jordan on mine just because I think that Jordan, like you would be trying to have a good time with
He had
Sandler.
Kobe.
And I think that Jordan would take it too serious. Like Jordan would be trying to beat you down, you know?
No,
But I also
no. Adam Sandler is gonna. Anytime he's on the court, he is serious, bro. This guy is a point guard. Like he is serious. He wants to win every game. And he can hoop.
You just can't put it between his legs because he's wearing the big shorts.
Can't nutmeg.
He's stuck in
All right,
too.
Kev, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Taking your busy schedule. Kev got a warm welcome from LA, by the way. Almost got broken into. His neighbor got broken into the other
Yeah, that's
night.
close.
So hopefully no more of that, but thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Hate to
guys.
hear
It's
that. Let's go, man. Good luck this year.
fun. Thank you.